the
Here.
open forum. Okay. So welcome, everybody, and if we can bow our heads in a moment of silence. Amen. All right, if somebody will move to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, this is an open forum, and it's a time for you to ask questions and possibly receive answers. Angie? Oh, we have to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I think I assumed that. All right, so if you have anything that you want to share in this open forum or questions you want to ask, please come forward. State your name and your address.
Maybe not.
I am here for the Flat Creek Crossing Steering Committee and therefore land care. Jean
Okay.
Norris, 192 Mississippi Road, here for Flat Creek Crossing Steering Committee and therefore for land care. I am here to let the board know that the Flat Creek Crossing Steering Committee is intending to put together a grant proposal which is going to be due in by January 30th. So we do not have any paper to show yet. We don't know how much we're asking for, but we have walked the site today and we know what needs to be done. So we will try to work with the relevant people to figure out how much that would cost. Can we really afford to go ahead saying that we can come up with a one-to-one match? But I think we will have a proposal in by the 30th. And it will be for bank stabilization. The name of the grant is Helene Recovery Fund for part of 2025-2026. So it has part of rules in part, but a little bit of extension of those rules specifically for Helene recovery. And what we're seeing as we walk the Flat Creek Crossing site is that there is a good deal of damage to the banks that needs to be repaired, restored, rebuilt, whatever keywords we'll need to use in this proposal. And it extends beyond what we originally thought we were going to be working with. Much more needs to be done by the town maintenance facility than would have been the case previously, and there's a space above the site that we wanted to develop on partway up the MRA side that is very raw. There's a tree that's hanging with its roots exposed. That has to be dealt with equally. And there are a couple of other things that we want to look at that we may or may not be able to afford as we sit with our numbers, but I just wanted to let you know that. I don't know that you need to take any action about it. We didn't ask to be put on the agenda, but just wanted you to be informed. And we'll be working with Savannah and with Barry and a couple of MRA people and probably our own attorney, and we'll be doing a lot of work in a hurry. And
Thank you, Jean. Anybody have any questions of Jean?
Thanks for doing what you're doing.
thanks.
If your proposal is like the one I read before, I have great hope. You wrote a very good proposal before.
We have great hopes too. We have no idea how many other people are competing for this money, and we don't know how much we're asking for yet, but we're going to do our best.
Good luck.
And who is the party that you are submitting this to?
It is the state, North Carolina State Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, their grant apparatus. They have carved out these funds specifically called Helene Recovery Fund. So the Part F rules apply mostly, not entirely. It's limited to parts of the state. And of course, we were dead center for the affected area. So I think we'll not have any trouble building our case. Okay?
Sounds good. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Anybody else? Go to Jean.
Letta Jean Taylor, 386 Oklahoma Road. Tonight you're going to be considering a request for a conditional use permit. And this is not something you do very often. But I served on the Board of Adjustment for many years and also a commissioner, so I can speak from experience. I know it's difficult to tell a friend or a neighbor or an institution that they can't make an addition to their property, change a variance, change the height of a building if it doesn't meet the requirements for our building ordinance or the North Carolina statutes. Boards are not supposed to be rubber stamps or change ordinances just to suit one or two people. As you consider the ordinance or the conditional use permit, please remember it's about a piece of property and not about a person, because the precedent you set with the granting it to a piece of property will affect many people in years to come. The second thing I have, you see me every year. We have a wonderful staff. We're blessed that they care about us as individuals and as a community. The Buncombe County living wage for 2025 was $23.15, up from $22.10 in 2024. That rate covers the basic living expenses for a full-time worker. The actual figure is expected from the Just Economics this month, later this month. It's expected to rise again in 2026 and probably up to $25 an hour. So as you begin to think about your budget, please remember our staff that takes such good care of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Letta Jean. Savannah, anything to add?
No, thank you, Letta Jean. And I will say I'm very proud that all of our full-time employees do make the Buncombe County living wage of $23.15 an hour, but we will take a look at Just Economics for their 2026 data. Thank you.
At least or more.
Yes, thank you.
At least or more.
Okay, anybody else? Tom, please. You always share something with us. We'll feel deprived if we go a month without your input. Okay, anybody else? Okay, hearing none, I'll hear a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting.
I move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned until 6 o'clock. Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for a moment of silence, please. Amen. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
The
We're
consent.
going to continue one item. Should that be?
Use your mic.
I think we can just continue it when we get to that item on the agenda. I don't think that you need to revise the agenda.
Then
for that.
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved and we're ready to start. Mayor's communication, I heard from the mayor this morning and he sounded sick, but I'm going to require a doctor's note. And it better be a good one. Okay, let's start with the consent agenda. Savannah?
Yes, so on our consent agenda this evening, we have the minutes of the December 11th Public Forum meeting and the December 11th Town Council meeting. That's it for your consent agenda. I don't have too much in the way of communication. I'll mention that the office will be closed on the 19th for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Since our last meeting, we have received $24,842.24 in FEMA reimbursements.
Repeat that, please.
$24,842.24. So that's good. That's more progress made. And then the last communication from me is that we previously had a Montreat Police Department gathering scheduled for the 15th. It is now going to be the 16th, and it will still be at the Hamiltons' home, which they are there. So you can talk to them if you have questions about when to show up or where they live. And that's all I have.
Okay, that's corrected on this agenda also. Okay? Thank you, Savannah. You've all had a chance to see the administrative reports. Does anybody have any comments or questions? All good? All right, our next item is time for public comment. So anybody that wants to share information, now is the time to do so. It's not a time to ask questions or get answers, but if you'd like to address the council, please come forward, state your name and address. No? Everybody got quiet all of a sudden. Okay, moving on, we have no old business, so we're ready to start with the new business. And Savannah, you want to start us out on that?
Sure. So you'll be hearing a conditional zoning request from Wade and Susie Burns. This has been heard by your Planning and Zoning Committee. You do need to open a public hearing. Brandon, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would recommend opening the public hearing, hearing all of the comments, having your discussion, and then when you're ready to vote, close the public hearing and then vote. Is that right procedurally? Okay. So I will let you get started. The applicant is here along with the Hamiltons who are opposing the application. So I'll let you open the public hearing and then we can hear comments.
Okay, do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is now open, and we'll start our discussion, and we'll let, is there a preference for who starts?
So I think that it would be appropriate to have the applicant present their application.
Okay, and if everybody could, maybe each side could use about 10 minutes for their presentation? Okay? All right, Wade, or whoever.
Good evening, Commissioners and public. Thank you for your time. 60 years ago, I was in my second quarter of first year at College of Architecture and Urban Studies. 9 years later, opened my own practice, and what I've done is in the part of the application carried forward. But my practice has been basically town planning. Tonight, we're applying for conditional zoning because of the unique circumstances of setbacks and arguments about what's what. So I want to first say that stormwater ordinance in Montreat for residential work requires you have a site plan identifying what's to be built and where impervious surfaces are, driveways, walkways, so forth. And based upon the amount of square footage of impervious surface, there's a formula for how much rainwater you must capture and hold in a retention facility that's slow released over a period of between 3 and 4 days, so that what you capture is reducing the load and burden on the stormwater. Our site has an ephemeral stream running through it. Ephemeral streams are not required to have a 30-foot setback. That's been the position of the town of Montreat for many years. And so in my exhibit, we have some packages you all received.
Wade, can you take the mic with you?
Yes, thank you. And so we have our 1/4 acre lot, and we have the ephemeral stream running through it. So there's no water in it but a few days of the year. But that ephemeral stream bed is our property, but the ephemeral stream function is not ours to block. We must maintain that. Nobody can put a stop sign on where stormwater is coming through their property. They can do what they want to try and do management, but you must allow the water to pass through. So what we had is we've got the house, and it's shown on the material y'all have had for a couple of months. And then the back is a septic field. So we had nowhere to put a good rain garden because it's too susceptible to damage from a major storm. We had nowhere of putting something to collect stormwater that wasn't at risk of catching sediment as it comes in from land above. And so we used the roof of the house as an upside-down umbrella to collect our required gallons of stormwater. And that way the stormwater we're collecting is clean. It's all piped into 2 1,500-gallon tanks, and those are all buried underground. So then we placed the house, the 26 by 40 foot basement structure, on top of this basement in the only place it would fit, protecting the function and path of the ephemeral stream. Now, there are 3 issues before the commission on setbacks. One is we requested a reduction in the 30-foot setback on the rear of the property because instead of 30-foot, we have an 82-foot setback set by Buncombe County Department of Health. When they issued a permit, they determine where the septic field goes, and that determines where the house can go. So it made sense that if the circumstances, unusual circumstances, required a 30-foot setback, but because of the septic, it had to be 82, then it was reasonable for the 30-foot setback on the top side to be reduced to 19. And so the Board of Adjustment found that reasonable. Well, on the side yard setback, it's 15-foot setback, but we had to be 34 feet for the structure of the house, the basement, because the ephemeral stream must be not interfered with. And so we buried our retention underground. We collected our required water from a clean roof. And then what you got to do is you got to deal with what's coming from your property and what's coming from other properties. And so we have an awful lot of water coming from 70 acres of land above us. And so this stream had to be protected, reinforced, and strengthened so that it would not fail as it crossed our property. We had to take measures to try and protect anything on our property going and harming anybody else. And so what we did is we installed 2 catch basins north of the Hamilton property and north of our common property line, because we had water coming from the town's well sites and from other properties above, and that was coming down and going both onto Hamilton's yard and ours. And so we put in a catch basin here, right at the property line at the corner. Then we put in another catch basin and a big railroad ballast mud mat above the right-of-way, above our 2 properties. That was the railroad ballast helps clean the silt as the water's coming down, and then the catch basin, both catch basins are piped under our lot, and then they discharge into the established stream bed, which is the place that's the safest for it to land. We put those there because that would protect the Hamilton's property from water coming in on the top and flushing through this area they landscaped as a screen. And so they would have had damage there. And so these 2 catch basins were to try and prevent any damage to them and to us. And so then we graded the area and put the gravel and everything in and our driveway in. And we had a 1 weak spot, and that is that the driveway from our property has a slope to it. And so in the summer storms of last year, some water would rut down that driveway, not doing any damage, didn't carry anything into the Hamilton property, but in a major storm it would. And so it's important to pave the driveway that's sloped, because you'll see in the photographs you just received, what we have done is 2 things. We've taken the open stream bed between the pipe that comes onto our property and the pipe that exits our property, and we've made that a sanitary stormwater basin that catches the water coming into it from above. But then we've got the water that's coming from above that hits the top of our driveway at the property line. Well, we can't have erosion coming from our property going on to Mr. Hamilton's property. It's good if we can avoid it, and he's made sure we understand it's good if we can avoid it. And so what we did, and it's in our original site plan, is we put in the driveway down there, and it's put in as impervious material as gravel. But gravel is not as satisfactory as asphalt or concrete, because it will rut and it's on a slope. And so paving it was important, and we went all through that in 2024 with the zoning administrator and made sure we were okay to do that. And so we put that in. So because there were questions that came up about the driveway. Well, concrete's impervious, the gravel's impervious. The exhibit we had showed it as gravel because that's what it was for the Planning Commission. When we paved it, that was in accordance with the plan we'd gone over with Kayla in 2024. And it was the last step in protecting everybody's property from making this a sanitary transfer channel. So that when water hits the top of that driveway from property to the north, it's not picking up anything on our property. It's coming down over asphalt surface with the stone curbs on each side to keep erosion, anything from going there. As it comes down, it can make some escape right into the stream bed on our property, right before it enters the 3-foot culvert that goes down below it. Most of it will go all the way down to the bottom of the asphalt. And there is, the 2 photographs you have there, it shows the sanitary stormwater basin that we created between the 2 culverts. So such stormwater that comes down there has got no pollution as it crossed our property. And it goes through a pipe straight into the stream bed below. And then the water that's going to come from places we can't control, as it reaches our property, it's channeled in a sanitary stormwater channel that takes it, keeps it clean, and going right into the creek basin as required. I tried to be available so each of you could come out and...
keep the mic
Thank
up.
you. I tried to be available so each of you could come out and see all of these things because there are nuances to some of them. But the last photograph shows something none of you have seen because it's in the basement. The 3,000 gallon of water comes off the roof clean, goes into the cisterns clean, and these pipes are all have valves and a test on it, so they're all set. So the 3,000 gallons will drain the 2 tanks in between a little more than 3 and less than 4 days, as required by the town's stormwater ordinance. And the little faucet hose beam you see in there is so that when this annual test it takes, that can be opened up and the town inspection can look at it and know that that's exactly 1 gallon per minute over 3.5 days. And just picture a 1 gallon of milk being poured out and taking 60 seconds to do it. That's a long time to hold your arm up. Mr. Hamilton claims that in one of his recent letters to you that water's going from our catch basins in our system right back into the stream, creating harm. It doesn't because it's that slow release over 4 days. So what we did, there were 16 steps we took to manage all this stormwater. But what we put in our application was, because this was conditional zoning, there's a provision for what sort of conditions might there be. We didn't put in there the condition is that our driveway will remain gravel and won't be paved. We didn't put in there other things as a condition. I put in the application before the planning zoning and yours on page 19, principal stormwater management elements, conditions, and what they were. And these 6 stormwater management elements were critical in the successful treatment of Helene stormwater and might be considered the 6 conditions important to the building of the Burns home. You're the ones that determine such conditions as you review this. But you'll notice of those 6, 3 and 4 are that paved section of driveway and the curbs down each side so that that northern water coming from other sources, as it passed through our property, picked up nothing and stayed through that sanitary channel. So that was critical. And then what was also critical in your larger plans was by building this 9-foot, 8-inch tall concrete basement. That let us raise the ground on this side to catch all sorts of storm water that wasn't hitting the stream. It's coming from the west and northwest and some from the north. And we put 8 foot, 6 inches of fill against the foundation and tapered the ground above it. That covered the cisterns and created a swale to the left of our property. We owned that property at the time. We had to sell it. We had to move to South Carolina. And to protect that swale, we put in a 20-foot sewer easement as part of the deed so that this swale would be protected. The catch basins above that we put in, and this property owner paid most of the money above it, that this owns, to protect the Hamilton property. There's a question about trespass, about us taking stormwater and dumping it on somebody else. The only stormwater that's going through is coming from other property. Ours is all clean, and the basin is clean, held clean, and so there was no silt coming in there measurable to harm anybody. If it was considered trespass to capture water that wasn't on our property, preventing it from going into the Hamilton's new garden area, we could plug up the 2 drains, and then the water would just overflow and flow onto the new garden area. But by putting those 2 catch basins in, that properly redirected it from where it could harm them and took it and properly released it in the ephemeral stream bed. They own the land, but they must allow the water that God brought us to go through that. That's the way it works. And so everything we did was to address the stormwater issue. Zoning-wise, the issue is it reasonable for us to have a 19-foot setback? Is it unusual circumstances, unusual hardship? An 82-foot setback in the rear certainly is an unusual hardship. And then on the side, just to have a 2-foot chimney, it's a 15-foot setback, our house is 15 feet back, except for the 2-foot chimney. And whereas the 34-foot forced our requirement to protect that stream bed, it was reasonable to have that 2-foot variance. What's before you in the challenge is that the Board of Adjustment should not have given us a variance for that chimney, and 4-foot high roof shouldn't have been given to us. If we rule against us, then we have to tear off the fireplace and tear off the chimney and tear off the front of the porches. There was a complaint by our neighbor that we weren't really collecting. What water we were collecting was dumped very quickly in the stream, which is not true, and that we weren't catching it at all. And so we pointed that out in the Planning and Zoning Commission, that the little valley on the porch roof, we didn't pipe that back into the cisterns. We let that go straight down into the stream bed because that was preserved. What we have now is that this section between the culverts is established, it is reinforced. The box that I call the basement, 9-foot 8-inch tall concrete box, that is our stabilizer for all the storm water. That prevents the large boulders we put in the open stream bed from being dislodged. That gave us area to raise the elevation to 9 feet above our footing so we could create a swale to the left side. As the water came from other properties to the west and north, it came and crossed our property, and then we put in these 2 stone retaining walls. So all that water came down, passed, and went right across into undisturbed forest land that hadn't been disturbed in 100 years, I don't think. And so Hurricane Helene came through. 15 trees came down here. Trees came on the Hamilton's house, came on the Porter house, 15 in our side yard. There was no, and we took down a big oak right here because that could have come down and torn up our sanitary stormwater basin. Everything worked. Those 50 years, everything worked. There has been no environmental harm to Mr. Hamilton's property from our construction. I appreciate your signal.
Yeah, if you could wrap it up, it would be good.
Yes. Yes, well, we have been requested by you to have a stormwater expert here, so we do have one. And so you want to hear from him as you have requested. And so if you'll come up and introduce yourself, and then our attorney, which
20 minutes.
Brandon said we should have, is also here to speak.
I've been in contact with the applicant's counsel. I did not prepare him for a 10-minute time limit.
Okay.
I apologize for that. That's not something that I knew might be imposed.
Well, it was a suggestion, not,
Right. I apologize for
Okay.
not relaying that, but I do not think that the board would be at any risk of letting the applicant put on his case. We did not have our zoning administrator here tonight to give an overview, so that may save a little time. Again, I know that
yeah.
we were trying to stick to normal timeframes for an ordinance review. Sorry for not relaying that.
That's okay. Look forward to hearing from you.
I'll try to keep this as brief as possible. My name is Jacob McLean. I'm a professional engineer and certified floodplain manager. I'm a senior water resources engineer at Wildlands Engineering out of Asheville. I've been in Western North Carolina since 2005. I went to Auburn. I have a civil engineering degrees, bachelor's and a master's degree with a specialty in water resources management, hydrology, and hydraulics. I also have extensive training in stream and wetland restoration, stormwater management, design, inspection and maintenance, aquatic organism passage, culvert and bridge design, and we mainly do design work and planning work. I've worked for municipalities across the western part of the state and the upstate South Carolina. I've worked for the U.S. Navy on stormwater management projects on naval bases. And I recently was the project manager and technical lead on the Town of Black Mountain Stormwater Master Plan update. So I've worked a lot in stormwater management. I actually moved here in 2005 to work on stormwater management through NC State and doing research for Bill Hunt, who's led the use of low-impact development stormwater treatment facilities. I've taken all the trainings at NC State, cistern design, stormwater wetland design, their inspection and maintenance courses. Mr. Burns asked me to review his package and the design and construction work at his house and to visit his site with him and to comment at this meeting on the efficacy of his efforts to control both surface water runoff from off-site passing through his property and also stormwater management. And so that's what I'm here to do tonight. I have reviewed the package that he's provided to this board and also visited with him yesterday at the site, and he explained to me his design rationale, pointed out the different features of his water management on the site. I found all the information in this packet to be very fact-based, accurate, based off of the knowledge I have at this time. With respect to his upstream capturing of stormwater and trying to run that properly through his property and discharge it in a safe and effective way, I think he's done an excellent job of doing that. I mean, I really view that as going above and beyond what's normally required. I did not observe anything on his site that led me to think that there was potential for environmental damage or for damage to property. I think he's done a very thoughtful job of how to route the stormwater that's coming in the dry channel up above his property through his property in a responsible and effective way, also in environmentally effective way. He's used robust materials, a very thoughtful design of how the curbing and things around his stormwater feature protects his neighbor's property by keeping anything that's coming into his actual driveway or property on his driveway until it can go to a safe outlet location at the end of the property. In the conveyance channel, it obviously like withheld Helene and was very stable. I'm frankly very impressed as a designer. I don't think I could have done any better in the design of the surface water management features. He's even has provisions for if there's a very high flow that comes through that stormwater channel above and it overwhelms the pipes, that the water would be conveyed in a safe way and stay on his property and then discharge in a safe way into a vegetated area at the bottom of the property. He showed me his cisterns. All the information he's presented is accurate to what I observed yesterday. The routing of the vast majority of his rooftop into those cisterns, I think cisterns are a very effective way to treat stormwater runoff, and it makes a lot of sense that he did that on this site. So I think he's done a wonderful job of addressing the site constraints on his property and effectively in managing the surface water and the stormwater on his property in an environmentally sensitive way, a resilient way that was able to hold up to the stresses of a Helene type event, and in a way that protects the environment and the adjacent property. And so that's all I have to say. My compliments to his attention to his design work.
Can I ask you one question? Can you comment on the paved driveway versus the gravel driveway?
Yeah, I think those are essentially both considered impervious surfaces.
Right.
And the idea that a gravel driveway could rill or erode and deliver sediment into the creek sounds to be the rationale for paving the driveway. And I mean, pavement is really only a problem when you are parking in an oily car or when it's, people are dropping diapers in the parking lot at the grocery store or something. But I mean, in this context, I don't see any, negative result of changing it from gravel to asphalt. I view those as comparable and probably more effective in achieving what Mr. Burns has presented as the intent, which is to eliminate the potential for erosion and to help safely convey the water where he wanted it to go, which was to a location where it wouldn't cause any problems.
Did you do any calculations on the difference in retention or detention factors by changing from the gravel to the paved driveway? Because although they're both impervious that's a percentage. Driveway is roughly 100% impervious. Loose gravel can have a good deal of perviousness. My concern is in gravel you've got a lot more detention. There may not be a lot of retention factors, but just in terms of the flow. And it may be it's fine and it's not a big deal. My only question being, did you do any calculations? Do you know what increase or decrease in those two factors resulted from the fact that he changed the system at the last minute?
It's pretty standard to treat those. To answer your question, I have not been engaged by Mr. Burns to make any calculations. I will say from my design experience that you would not typically treat asphalt any differently than gravel in the determination of the sizing of the management device, and I believe Mr. Burns accounted for those impervious surfaces in his sizing of those cisterns, and so to me that approach makes sense.
So if the cisterns were sized properly, then you don't see an issue in terms of the overall outflow coming off the site?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Other questions of either Wade or, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Jacob.
Jacob. Okay.
All right. Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I appreciate your diligence in letting us speak a little over 10 minutes, and I know the last thing I want to hear is from another lawyer, so I'm going to make my comments as brief as possible.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is T.C. Morphus. I'm an attorney with the Bro Law Firm in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, but I have been engaged by the Burnses for several years now in the litigation that is part of this process. I've had other matters in Montreat, and so I've gotten to know your community quite well. Our firm focuses almost exclusively on land use and local government work, and I actually represent a number of small municipalities just like Montreat. So I'm very familiar with issues like this and the difficult challenges you all are facing. I presented in front of you a letter which I sent to town staff to be delivered to you early this morning, but it's dense and single space, so I would be surprised if any of you had a chance to read it. What I want to do is briefly go over the high points of that letter. And there are really two main points that I want to provide. One, I want to provide a detailed explanation of the permitting behind the asphalt paving. And then I also want to address in a summary way these legal issues that have been raised. And I'm going to tell you, with all due respect to Mr. Hamilton and the rationales he's put forward, those are primarily scare tactics. And the top line you need to take from the legal issues he's raised is that they have no bearing on your decision tonight. The other high-level item I want to point out, and this is all due respect to the former Madam Mayor who spoke earlier, this is a conditional zoning. It's not a quasi-judicial matter. It's a legislative matter. And your town attorney can advise you on how that affects your decision-making process. So let me start with the paving permitting process. I provide a detailed description on page 2. What you need to know is that Mr. Burns' paving or his parking area was first approved March 11, 2022. That's the original zoning compliance permit that was issued by your former administrator, Scott Adams. And he approved, as part of the project, a reported total of 3,250 square feet of impervious surface created by the construction of gravel parking areas and driveways and the house. So just as the conversation that you had, Mr. Blake, with our stormwater engineer, it would always be viewed as impervious. Your own ordinance defines impervious surface as follows. This is section 301.6 of your Code of Ordinances. And it says, impervious surface is any surface that in whole or in part restricts or prevents the natural absorption of water into the ground. Such surfaces may include, but are not limited to, gravel, concrete, asphalt, or other paving material in all areas covered by the footprint of building or structures. And that's on the bottom of my second page.
Yeah, I can also point out to you that we have a different definition of impervious surface in the stormwater ordinance.
Well,
It only refers then to gravel surfaces as densely packed gravel surfaces as being impervious. So impervious in a definition in one place, a definition in another place, it's not, it's situational to some degree. And although it may have been good for a zoning permit in 2022 or 24, that was a different permitting process, as you yourself pointed out. We're now in a conditional zoning process.
correct.
In a conditional zoning process, what you apply for is every improvement you put down on a site plan. That's what you're required to do. And then once you do that, you live by that, or you have to go back through the process again. And here we're faced with the fact that we have someone who came in and gave us a site plan, and it was labeled gravel. And he went before our Planning and Zoning Commission, and even though you in your letter said putting the pavement in was critical, and the applicant this evening said how important it was to pave this driveway, that was never disclosed either in the exhibit or to the Planning and Zoning Commission at all. And so what they approved is not the plan that this picture shows with a different improvement on it. And it's somewhat troubling when that occurs. And so we don't really have a planning and zoning commission that's even voted on the plan you're proposing tonight.
And if I may, Mr. Blake, as a lawyer, I know my place. I wouldn't dream of doing stormwater calculations. And I know with your background, you know the Montreat ordinance as well or better than anybody. What Mr. Burns has said and what is true is that at the time the the conditional zoning application was presented, the property had not been paved. And so we listed it as it was presented. But you're exactly right. And this is an important point for the board to understand. When you apply for conditional zoning, we're in an unusual situation here because there's already something on the ground, but it's what is on the ground and then what are you proposing for it to be in the future. So I would agree with you that that was an oversight. It should have listed paving from the get-go. And I would say, if the board is so inclined to grant the conditional zoning, you add a condition that we submit an amended site plan that shows the paving. And if I may, I want to make sure, and the board is probably already aware of this, but I'm not sure the members of the community are, because there's a little bit more to the permitting process that I think is important, because I think you've raised really valid concerns, which is the planning board, regardless of the lawfulness of Mr. Burns' actions, was looking at at gravel and not at pavement. But I think understanding why we did that is really important. And I think, so let me just, if I could, finish that. So you have that initial permitting in 2022. On April 17th, 2024, Mr. Burns and the former zoning administrator, Ms. DeChristina, had an email exchange. And I've included this email in the letter. It is one of the attachments, but I'll just read the highlighted important part. What she says.
If you can find it, tell us where it is.
Yes, ma'am. So if you flip to the back, it is the second page in my attachment. So it's probably 8 pages in from the very beginning of the letter. And I actually highlighted the relevant portion for you. I'll let y'all get to that part, and then we'll proceed. Okay. Oh, and I'm sorry, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I'm at 8 pages from the beginning, so it's the second page of the attachments.
It has the highlighting.
Okay. And what Ms. DeChristina said is if you are paving over the gravelled area under your original zoning permit, I don't need that addressed in the new permit request. This is fine and does not need any permitting from my office as long as it is within the boundaries of the existing approved gravel pad. So I want to highlight this point that Mr. Blake has made because this is important for this board. Mr. Burns proceeded lawfully. He believed he had all the approval he needed. And what he will tell you is that because of Hurricane Helene, it was essentially impossible to get a paver here before December of last year. But he still made a mistake, which we will own up to, which is that he should have shown on the conditional zoning application that that area was going to be paved in the future. So we acknowledge that. But I think it's important for the board and for the community to understand this wasn't a surreptitious late at night matter. This was something that had been planned for months and had been specifically approved by the town zoning administrator, saying that no further permitting was necessary. So that's what I have to say on that. Are there other questions? Otherwise, I'd like to briefly address in the time I have remaining the legal issues that have been raised. Okay. So Mr. Hamilton has submitted a supplemental memo and a memo to you. It's 10 spaces, or pages single-spaced. That's a lot of information. I think there's some things that are really telling there. And the first one is that there's not a single line in there that discusses how the project has actually worked in practice. There's no mention of Hurricane Helene, the worst storm this area has endured in living memory. And I can't do any better than our stormwater engineer, Mr. Burns, but I think that's telling. What he raises are really issues of trespass and spot zoning. And he says essentially, Burns is trespassing on my property with stormwater, so that's ultra vires, and you guys can't approve zoning, that would be ultra vires. And that's a problematic statement for a number of reasons. Number one, there is such a thing as the trespass on someone's property with stormwater. It's well established in North Carolina law. However, That is a common law tort, which is not the same thing as your statutory zoning authority. And that is something that would be between private citizens. Mr. Hamilton would have to sue the Burnses and win in court for that to stick. That has nothing to do with your authority to approve or deny the conditional zoning. As a legal matter, I think it also has problems. As I point out in my letter, and this is on page 4 of my letter, there's a 3-year statute of limitations on trespass in North Carolina. They started construction in 2022. You can talk about when it started to run, but let's see here. What GS 1-52.3 says is that when the trespassing is a continuing one, the action shall be commenced within 3 years from the original trespass and not thereafter. So I think there's a strong case to be made that he's time barred if he really wanted to sue the town, or not the town, but the Burnses. The other problem is that in North Carolina, and Mr. Hamilton's analysis is silent about this, is a reasonable use state. That means that a reasonable amount of my stormwater, if I'm uphill of you, can go onto your property. What can't happen is an unreasonable amount. What can't happen is something that causes damages. And that's the other issue he has, is he can't show any damages. As Mr. Burns has spent all this time this evening pointing out, he's not only treating stormwater for his property, but for other properties as well. If we got into a battle with experts, I think what you would find is that his property has actually been helped, not harmed, by the stormwater treatment from the Burns' property. The other issue he raises is spot zoning. And I've had the privilege of litigating and losing spot zoning cases in North Carolina, including in front of the North Carolina Court of Appeals. And the point I want to really hone in on for you, because Mr. Hamilton did a good job of explaining the law of spot zoning. I'll give him credit for that. However, he glosses over the fact that it says the tract of land is owned by a single person. That's one of the requirements for spot zoning. In Mussie v. Town of Shallotte, we raised this exact issue. We were representing the plaintiffs. We were suing the town of Shallotte. And we said, well, it says single person, but the people who got their rezoning, it's owned by a family. It's more than one person. I haven't found cases in North Carolina, including Bud v. Davie County, where the court had, it was a father and son at that time that owned the property. And the court said no. Single family or single owner means single owner. So they expressly rejected the existing case law and have drawn that very narrowly. This property, we include their deed in my packet, is owned by Wade and Susie Burns. So as a matter of North Carolina law, it cannot be spot zoning. The other issue, and this has not been litigated in North Carolina, is the relationship between conditional zoning and general district zoning. No need to remind the board, but the requested rezoning is from R3 to R3 conditional. So it's not really a functional departure from what's being approved. And I think if we were to litigate that, there's a good chance the court would agree that that is not spot zoning. Lastly, in North Carolina, unlike in some states, spot zoning isn't the end of the analysis. If a property is spot zoned, you then have to ask, is it lawful or unlawful? And Mr. Hamilton and I both point out that there are a variety of factors that have to be considered. And I think here, the balance of the equities would really weigh in our favor. We would be dramatically harmed if the rezoning were not allowed and the house we had to tear down parts of it. However, what we know is that in practice, the other properties around us have been helped. So we think that even if it were spot zoning, in this case, it would be lawful. So I say all that by way of, you're going to hear a lot more about legal arguments tonight, and I would encourage you to forget about it. I would encourage you to think about the merits of the case. A citizen who spoke before said it's about the property and not the players involved. Couldn't agree more. Think about how this property is functioning now. Think about, is this just and fair? And I think if you do that, you will reach the right conclusion. I thank you for your time tonight. Mr. Blake? No. I'm sorry. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Are we ready to go on? Do we need a break? Are we good to go? Huh? What's that? Yeah. We're ready to go. Okay. For the Hamiltons, you're up.
Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem, excuse me, council members, my name is William Hamilton. I am Jim and Christina Hamilton's son. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today, and Happy New Year. So I have been coming to Montreat since I was a kid, and I'm here today representing the family because Dad is having a little trouble traveling recently, but he is on Zoom to answer any specific legal questions you all might have. So we oppose Mr. Burns' conditional zoning request on two grounds, environmental and legal. Thank you for the slides. And with that said, in a moment, we would like to propose a compromise that would allow Mr. Burns to keep his house, it would protect the environment, and it would resolve the legal issues. So in terms of the environment, the conditional zoning request would conflict with Section 305.1 of the Montreat Stormwater Ordinance. The stream that cuts across both of our properties, on Mr. Burns' part of the stream, it is surrounded on all sides by built-upon areas, a house, paved driveway, gravel driveway, and that clearly violates the 30-foot setback requirement of the ordinance, which the Superior Court in the Board of Adjustment case said applies here. And as shown in Dad's supplemental, the new paved driveway blatantly violates the Superior Court's binding interpretation of 305.1. During the BOA hearing on July 28th, 2022, Dr. William Seaman stated, "Right now, we are using Flat Creek and its tributaries as storm drains. And Mr. Burns' construction has turned the stream into a storm drain for polluted stormwater despite the measures he has put into place." Now, Mr. Burns just said that all of the stormwater was clean, but in the Montreat Comprehensive Plan, it states that any stormwater off of a built-upon area is considered polluted stormwater. So these measures are primarily designed to prevent washout from a storm and to protect his house, but they do not keep polluted stormwater out of the stream. So one of the measures you can see here on the board is his roof, which I have shaded in red. All of the stormwater from his roof is taken into gutters into the two 1,500-gallon tanks Mr. Burns described. Those are the green circles. And then it is piped into our part of the stream. So those dashed red lines, that is our best guess of where the pipe is buried because it is not listed in the site plan. But if we could go to the next slide, please. This is where the pipe lets out, right there onto our property. So those 1,500-gallon tanks hold 25,000 pounds of polluted stormwater, equivalent in weight to a school bus, and releasing it directly into the stream is completely against Montreat's comprehensive plan, which on page 27 recommends using rain gardens so pollutants can be absorbed into the soil before the water enters the stream. Next slide, please. And Mr. Burns has room at the bottom of his property below the septic field where he could have put a rain garden, but he chose the option that is worse for Flat Creek. Now, next slide, please. Now, the big red thing at the top, that is the 15-foot storm drain Mr. Burns mentioned earlier. It collects stormwater from a gravel driveway on a neighbor's property. And then there's a smaller drain kind of below it to the right. And those dashed red lines, again, are our best guess of where he has buried the pipe. But both drains divert and pipe polluted stormwater onto our property, which is the red arrow at the bottom there. If you could go to the next slide, please. So the bottom pipe, which is kind of knocking over a silt fence, is the outlet of the water collected from those two storm drains. And then the big pipe and then the pipe behind it are connecting the culverts, Mr. Burns' side of the stream and our side of the stream. So next slide, please. So below the big red drain there, below that is the, could you go to the next slide, please? Is some gravel driveway there. And then below that, next slide, please, is the new paved driveway that Mr. Burns built. And there's curbing on the side that diverts polluted stormwater into a gap at the bottom onto our property, which is that big red arrow there. And there are no stormwater measures there at all, nothing to prevent sheet water from running down onto our property. And if you go to the next slide, please, you can see the entire paved driveway. On the back there is the gap at the bottom. Next slide, please. That's a different angle where you can see the gap more clearly. And then next slide, please. There's another angle of the gap where the water can just shoot off onto our property. And then you can also see the drain coming from the two tanks on the roof there. So Mr. Burns's stormwater measures have turned the stream into a storm drain that carries polluted stormwater from his property into Flat Creek about 150 feet from our houses. Now, in terms of the legal issues, if you could please go back to, or next slide rather, just that's the full stormwater management there. In terms of the legal issues, I am not a lawyer, but I will do my best to summarize some of the issues. Dad is on Zoom, so if you have a pointed legal question, he is able to answer that question. First, in North Carolina, the North Carolina Court of Appeals recognized in New Bern LLC versus First Berkshire Properties that it is unlawful for one private party to intentionally and unreasonably divert and deposit stormwater onto the private property of another party. And that is exactly what Mr. Burns is doing with the stormwater measures I just described, which you can, of course, see on the board there. All of the polluted stormwater from the Cullerton areas, all of it is being diverted onto our property, which is an unlawful trespass. Earlier it was mentioned that managing stormwater had to be reasonable. Our view is this is not reasonable at all. And respectfully, if the town authorizes conditional zoning of the current site plan, that would be authorizing an unlawful trespass, which would be ultra vires and in excess of the council's statutory authority. A second legal issue is that a court might decide that approval of conditional zoning would be illegal spot zoning. I know Mr. Morphus just discussed that because it only benefits the property owner, it harms a neighbor, and it harms the community. In terms of Mr. Morphus's analysis, Dad has a different perspective on that, so he is more than happy to address y'all and give you his perspective on the law. The conditional zoning would only benefit Mr. Burns. So the conditions would be it only benefits the property owner, it harms a neighbor, and it harms the community. And the conditional zoning would only benefit Mr. Burns because the other neighbors would still be subject to the 30-foot setback rule in 305(1). It certainly would harm us because it would authorize multiple illegal trespass and it would allow substantial pollution into our part of the stream, and it would harm the community to ignore the town's comprehensive plan and treat the stream like a storm drain that empties into Flat Creek. It would also harm the community to set the precedent that a property owner can avoid the BOA's very strict procedures for variances by seeking conditional zoning. And for the town to approve the illegal construction of Mr. Burns's paved driveway, he built it after the Superior Court's binding order that said 305 applied. To approve, that would certainly not be in the public's interest to approve illegal conduct. Now, under North Carolina law, the burden would be on the town to prove that in court that spot zoning is reasonable and therefore not illegal. And the town could not say that Mr. Burns received a vested interest because he built his house during our successful appeal of the BOA's ruling. That would violate NCGS 160D-1402, which Dad talks about in his memorandum. So Mr. Burns's conditional zoning request would expose the town to litigation, which obviously isn't in the public interest. Now, Mr. Morphus said, I'm down here to threaten everybody. The absolute last thing we want is litigation, especially with the town. But I would ask the council respectfully, how would you feel if your neighbor did this to you? If they just took all of the polluted stormwater from their property and another property above both houses and then use your property as a storm drain. It's not a nice thing to do, and to approve that would not be fair, especially since the new paved driveway is blatantly illegal. It was built in direct violation of the Superior Court's order. I want to be very clear, we are not trying to tear down Mr. Burns's house, but we do want a fair compromise, which is what we think our compromise proposal is. It lets Mr. Burns keep his house, it protects Flat Creek, and it avoids further litigation. But so far, Mr. Burns has been unwilling to compromise. In the BOA case last year, the judge asked us and Mr. Burns if we could reach a settlement to avoid further litigation. So we proposed a compromise, which Mr. Burns rejected. And recently, we proposed a similar compromise to the Zoning Commission and to the council, which Mr. Burns has not accepted. And honestly, what he's done is the opposite of compromise. He built his paved driveway in direct violation of a court order in a way that created another illegal trespass. And just this morning in their submission, he took a shot through Mr. Morphus at my dad's motives. On page 6, he writes, "It is plain what Mr. Hamilton really cares about is having to look at a component of the Burns' stormwater management systems for the few months of the year when he is a resident in Montreat." And during the BOA case, Mr. Burns made a similar accusation in a motion for sanctions. And he said that Dad was harassing him, which the judge tossed and said Dad had not proceeded with improper motives, and instead, the judge recognized that Dad had brought the case to protect the environment. And I would just like to say, on a personal level, I do not appreciate the personal attacks on my old man, and I hope the fact that I've flown down here twice proves that we care about Montreat. Our family has been coming for over 100 years. My brother, sister, and I all went to clubs. So I do not appreciate the personal attacks, but despite them, we still want to reach a fair compromise. So respectfully, we ask the town to impose our compromise in the form of conditions for the conditional zoning. First, we propose piping the 26 feet of stream on Mr. Burns' property and then covering the pipe. This would prevent polluted stormwater from entering his stream. Second, Mr. Burns should eliminate any trespass on our property and eliminate any gravel or paved driveways within the 30 feet of our or his stream, which violates 305.1. And we hope that the town will agree to this compromise and impose these conditions. Again, we don't want any further litigation with the town, Mr. Burns, whoever, but we do want to be treated fairly. And what Mr. Burns has done is not fair. He is treating our property like a storm drain for polluted stormwater. And with that, I would like to thank the council for the opportunity to address you today, and both Dad and I are available for any questions you might have.
I would like to hear from your dad, just some comments he wants to make.
Sure, if it's possible, pull them up.
Here's the property.
Dad, I can hold the phone to the mic. Why don't I do that? All right. Dad, you are now on speaker. You want to say something, see if it comes through?
Yes, first of all, I want to know.
Hold on. Can you mute your speakers because there's feedback?
Yeah, turn off the audio.
I got you, yeah.
And can the members of the council hear
Is that
me?
coming through? Ish? You still got, you got to turn off, you got to mute your computer.
Okay, I think this is it. Is that going to work?
Should I just put the phone on the, how would you like this? Probably that. I'm just putting your phone.
Hear me now?
Can you hear him now? Try that again, Mr. Hamilton.
Yes, I've turned off the audio on my Zoom call with the hopes that you now can hear me
Y'all can hear? Yes, we're good.
without any backlash.
Yes, sounds good now.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, the main thing I would like to do is answer any questions that the council may have. I've submitted some detailed memos, but you may have some questions. I don't know if you want me to repeat a lot of what I've got in there, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Let me start off by just responding to some of the things that Mr. Morpeth said. First of all, he went through in some detail the permits that Mr. Burns got to put in the gravel driveway, and he says the paved driveway. But after the Superior Court came down with its ruling, those permits are no good. The North Carolina Statute 160D 1402 L1 states that while Mr. Burns had the right to build his house while the appeal was pending, after it was over, he shall not be deemed, I'm quoting now, shall not be deemed to have gained any vested right on the basis of actions taken prior to or during the pendency of the appeal, and must proceed as if no development approval had been granted. In other words, the permit that he received, he had no vested right in it, and it frankly did not justify paving his driveway after the Superior Court ruled. The second thing I would say is that Mr. Morpeth said that in terms of any suit we might have for trespass, that our statute of limitations has run. That's just not so. What we have here is what's called a recurring trespass. Every time it rains and stormwater is dumped onto our property, that is a recurring trespass, and the statute of limitations starts anew. If you look at the New Bern case that we cited, that's exactly what that case has to say. Now, Mr. Morpeth also says that there is some distinction between the common law right of trespass and the council's ability to approve conditional zoning. But if the council approved conditional zoning here on the basis of the site plan, or even a site plan amended as Mr. Morpeth suggested, that would be approving an illegal trespass. And the town can't do that. That would be ultra vires. That would be in excess of its statutory authority. So the trespass aspect and the aspect of the town approving conditional zoning go hand to hand, and it limits here what the town can do. Now, let me turn to the spot zoning issue. The main argument Mr. Morpeth makes there is that there can't be illegal spot zoning here because that requires just a single owner, and this property is owned by both Mr. Burns and his wife. But we cited in our brief a case called Alderman, which specifically held that where a wife and a husband own property together, that is considered to constitute a single owner. And Mr. Morpeth talks about the case he had, which is a Musi case that he cites in his paper, where the single owner issue came up. If you look at that case, that case cites the Alderman case and recognizes that the Alderman case, which held that a wife and a husband constitute a single owner, is good law in North Carolina. So his argument that there's not a single person owner involved here just isn't in accord with North Carolina law. Now, there are a number of other points that I can make. I think William has covered a bunch of them. But I think maybe the best thing for me to do is answer any questions the council may have.
Does anybody have a question?
Would you review what you said would be in the compromise? I had a hard time getting it all down.
I didn't. William, you're going to have to repeat the question.
Dad, I'll take this.
We're talking about the compromise now. We want to understand better what the compromise suggestion was.
Okay, William,
Yeah,
maybe
William's
it's easier for you to handle that.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, William's going to tell us.
First, we propose piping the 26 feet of stream on Mr. Burns's property and then covering the pipe. This would prevent polluted stormwater from entering his stream. Second, Mr. Burns should eliminate any trespass on our property and eliminate any gravel and paved driveways within 30 feet of our stream and his stream, which violates 3051.
Do you understand that?
Yeah, I think what he's saying is they want this area, the exposed stream on his property piped.
Yeah, if we could put the site plan back up on the board.
If you could indicate.
Oh, sure.
Sort of, because.
Yeah. So the blue part, which is the ephemeral stream on Mr. Burns's property, that is the 26 feet of ephemeral stream we would like piped, and then the paved driveway and then the shaded gravel driveways, we would want those removed. Drains depositing all of the stormwater onto our property, whether it's the paved driveway, the roof, or the two drains above our properties.
Are you suggesting where that would go that would suit you?
We are not. Maybe Dad is, but we have not proposed, not that I'm aware of.
Well, we're just supposed to make it up ourselves?
I am not a lawyer and I am not a civil engineer, so I can't speak to that.
William, can I say something?
Of course.
The water from the roof could easily be directed to the back of Mr. Burns's property. He makes a point on his site plan to show that water from Helene that came down to the west of his property was deposited there without any harm. And he could certainly direct the water from the roof back there. Also, the water coming out of those storm drains that he has created and piped into our stream could be directed back there. And water coming down, because the driveway would be taken up under our proposal. So there, the stormwater would just dissipate into the soil.
Dad, do you think it's fair to say we would just return it to how it was before all the construction?
Can't hear you, William.
Would it be fair to say we would just return the paved and gravel sections to where it was before all the construction?
I would wonder if Mr. Hamilton would willing to allow some stormwater engineering.
Right, you have to talk in the mic.
Yes, ma'am. The question I have, because this is a problem we ran into with the settlement discussions originally, which the judge asked everyone to engage in, was Mr. Hamilton.
Can you hear Mr. Hamilton?
I can speak up if need be.
He can't hear you.
Oh, here, I'll take the mic, Madam Mayor.
Turned his computer off.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Mute it, yeah.
Whoops. Oh, no, he's still there.
And if need be, I'm happy to have Mr. Hamilton Jr. relay what I'm saying, but here,
You're muted. Turn Zoom back on. I'm going to mute you so there's no feedback, but turn Zoom back on the speaker so you can hear. Keith, would you mind waiting for us? The speaker's back on. All right, cool. I'm muting you.
so we'd love to settle this as well. And here is the concern. So just let's back up a little bit. The judge asked the parties to investigate settlement, and we did. And to Mr. Hamilton's great credit, he very quickly came up with a proposal. We looked at that, and his original proposal is in, I think it's the last sort of 3 or 4 pages of our packet there. And we came back and said, we can't accept the proposal because it doesn't work. And Mr. Hamilton has addressed that now and said, well, we'd be willing to do some different things. But at the end of the day, there's no stormwater engineering happening here. So I'm not saying this is best or that's best. I'm saying I'm not a stormwater engineer. And I think if there were to be some compromise, having 2 lawyers hammer out a stormwater engineering problem is not a great way to do it. So what I would urge, and I'm asking this to Mr. Hamilton, is if he is willing to settle and reach a compromise that the parties could live with, that the town could live with, could we base it in engineering? And that's without a foregone decision about what it ought to be. Because I'm not qualified, and with all due respect, I don't think he is either. So that's my question.
Hey, you're back on speaker so everybody can hear you. Did you catch all that? Excuse me? Okay, you're on speaker, everybody can hear you. Basically, and Mr. Morpheus, if I summarize it incorrectly, just let me know. He's basically suggesting that 2 civil engineers compromise. I'm sorry.
Or a civil engineer instead of 2 lawyers.
Yeah, instead of 2 lawyers compromising here, get 2 civil engineers together to hammer out a settlement. Would that be a fair assessment, Mr. Morpheus?
I think we can talk about what that looks like, but I'd like a settlement, if one's going to happen, be based on some engineering.
I think he figured it out. Okay. Did you catch that last part?
Okay. Yeah, so Mr. Hamilton, with all due, this is T.C. Morpheus speaking, with all due respect to your skills and mine, neither of us are engineers. I'd like to know if you all would be open to a settlement discussion that's based on a proposal from a stormwater engineer.
I'm handing you back to Mayor Pro Tem.
We have been amenable all along to a settlement discussion. That, you know, I'm getting feedback. That's why I hesitated. But I would be happy to engage with 2 engineers. We haven't hired one yet, so we'd have to go find one. But I reserve the right to have the final word on any compromise we might agree to.
Okay, hold on just 1 minute. Brandon?
Madam Chair, I think it may be a good idea just to preserve this record, to get Mr. Hamilton on Zoom and give our tech folks just a minute to make that happen.
Okay, Mr. Hamilton, we're going to try to get you on Zoom again to make this a little easier.
Yeah, I'm handing you off to Ms. Parrish.
While we're waiting, maybe I shouldn't speak yet.
This goes forward, that property. Who's gonna maintain the,
They got to figure this out.
the hold up? All right, you know,
Is the 2 engineers get together?
oh, no, that's, I'm thinking of back.
What I would like is that we continue this until
Am I muting? Okay. And now give us just 1 second. Yeah, we still can't see anything here, but. Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, let's get ourselves back in order. And one quick comment to the audience. We're getting a lot on our mics from people speaking in the audience. So if you guys could just hold your comments till the end, that would be very, very helpful for us when we do the minutes.
Somebody tell me if you can hear me?
Yes, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
I can hear you, can you hear me?
We can, loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. Technology is wonderful.
Okay, where are we? We were talking about the compromise?
Yes.
I'm happy to state that again to make sure Mr. Hamilton got it, if that'd be useful. So the question I had for you, Mr. Hamilton, this is T.C. Morphus. I said, with all due respect, you and I are lawyers, not engineers, and my question is, would you be willing to have a settlement discussion that's based on stormwater engineering? And what I heard you say is, yes, but I want the final say over whether we approve any settlement or not. And I agree. I would say the same thing for my clients. I think it'd really be, could we negotiate a set of conditions that we could bring back to the board? Because at least on this matter, they have the final say, not you or I.
I am happy to agree to that. As I say, I have not engaged a stormwater engineer. I had a expert in stream restoration testify at the Board of Adjustment, but I do not believe he would be the proper person, but I'm sure I can find somebody, but it might take a little while. But I'm more than happy to have conversations about some type of compromise.
I think we've finally come to a decision, have we not?
Sounds like it to me.
And this is really a question for your attorney about the appropriate way to handle this. Obviously, you as a board could close the hearing, you can vote tonight, or you could continue the hearing to a date certain to let the parties discuss this further. So I'd ask for your attorney to provide some guidance.
I have an opinion on the thing that might be the cleanest and easiest for staff, and that would be to leave this public hearing open and continue this matter to a date certain. And just to go over the manager's very good suggestion at the beginning, why we leave these hearings open, it is because once you close the public hearing, it can be a big deal. So that is not to say that the board will not have a time when it can take the matter to board deliberations. But by leaving the public hearing open, it always leaves you the opportunity to call back to people for questions or to continue discussion if you need to. In that same spirit, unless there's an objection by the parties or anyone else, I would suggest continuing this matter to a date certain.
Zato?
I am happy to do that. I will tell you that in March I'm having a fairly significant operation, and obviously I've got a schedule around that and some medical procedures preceding that operation.
Yeah, you may have another one.
My suggestion would be if you all do continue, if you choose to leave the public hearing open and continue it to a date certain, I would bump that out further than February. Is that okay for them to do?
If there are medical proceedings in February and March, then yes, I think that we can look to the parties for these, but
And again, I'm not an engineer, but I've worked with a lot of them. I think expecting an answer from one or two engineers we then have agreed to getting back to you in March is overly optimistic. So I would bump it out. I mean, I recommend 90 days unless there's other thinking on that.
I would suggest the date of April 9th.
Brandon, does that sound doable?
no objections from me.
Okay. Is everybody else okay with that?
Yes. The only,
Well, I'm okay, but I'm not looking at it for calendar, so it's a little bit hard for me to say yea and nay. I think it's okay, but I may have some difficulty.
Well, we'll certainly try to work with your schedule, but I'm hoping that you all can go away from here and come up with a compromise that suits both, because we're not engineers, we're not environmentally astute, and we depend on you all to be able to settle this. Unfortunately, it wasn't settled maybe the first time a compromise was offered. But anyway, we're here where we are now, and I think we'll just continue.
Yes, so you'll need a motion to continue to April 9th, 2026.
Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Thank you
We'll
again.
do. Thank you, William.
Madam Mayor, Pro Tem, members of the board, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, and everybody that participated. Appreciate it. Okay, with that, we will continue. Business at hand.
Yes, so we have next our 2026 Town Council meeting schedule. Obviously, we'll be sticking to those second Thursday of each month meetings. And also on the schedule, we have gone ahead and included an audit committee meeting for December 3rd, 2026. That will be ahead of our December 10th Town Council meeting, so that the audit committee does have time to review the audit before it's submitted to Town Council.
Okay, so we have those dates, and do I have a motion?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The only thing I would say is that the audit committee met with the auditors yesterday, and we need to make sure that they have this December 3rd date, because they said it was hard enough getting it
Yeah.
when they got it to us,
Okay,
which was not December 3rd.
all right. And the next item, C, is appointment of land care committee members. And Tom, I think you have that information.
Yes, we have two members that we would like to put forth. They are current members, and we have vetted them through the chair of Land Care, who is very excited about our motion to reappoint Kathy Putnam and Jean Norris as town representatives to the Land Care Committee for a term of 2 years that will expire on January 31, 2028.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Was that your motion? Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, and thank you both for your service. Thank you, Jean. And Kathy's not here, is she? Yeah. Well, thank Kathy for your continued service. Okay, next up, the sanitation ordinance review. Savannah?
Yes, so I understand that some of you may have some additional comments and that you would like to continue or I guess continue, doesn't matter?
I would suggest continue to a date certain.
Yeah,
Okay, let's-
The next meeting.
Okay, so we will
And I'll move
continue.
to continue.
Okay.
And just also comment that staff has done a very good job. The ordinance is very, very close. So we're all very pleased. But we just have some jots and tittles. And I just, even today, looking through We got some definitions that are in different places in the ordinance I didn't even realize, and it's just cleanup, but it just needs to get done to get it done right.
Okay, so we'll continue this to next month. We should be able to quickly to amend all that. Do we have to have a second on that? Okay, anybody second that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so D is approved. The next one is a budget amendment, Savannah?
Yes, so this budget amendment will be to include into Fund 29, which is our Helene Fund, the $24,842 reimbursement we received. And so that is that budget amendment. It's just moving those funds into Fund 29.
Okay. Have a motion?
I so move.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so budget amendment number 6 is approved. And moving on to wildlife feeding ordinance, Savannah?
Yes, so we've discussed this previously, and it's back on the agenda with the changes that we discussed, one of which is to establish the test period from April 1st, 2026 to March 31st, 2027. And I guess I should also clarify that this ordinance is to help us get our bear problem under control. So we would be asking folks to refrain from feeding the birds and other wildlife for the test period of 1 year. We also clarified that that materials that had been planted that may incidentally attract wildlife are not included in this ban. We're not expecting people to go dig up their flower gardens or anything like that. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it, but I will leave it to you to discuss.
Okay, discussion?
I think we need a motion first. Don't we?
I'll move approval.
Okay, a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion has been made to approve.
Nays?
Nays?
Nay.
Nay?
Aye.
Aye? I don't know if I get a vote. Do I get to vote?
Wait a second. What I'd like to do is have the discussion in between the motion.
We talked about it
Well,
earlier.
and
and
you
we
do
were
not
gonna
have to have a
discuss it
motion
first.
before discussion. You can have your discussion before you
Okay.
make your
Okay.
motion.
All
So
right.
why, do we just want to throw that out and start over
Yeah,
again?
let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's discuss like that motion never happened.
Yes, and I'm sorry, again, our software will be really interfered if we still have a lot of talking in the audience. I'm sorry. So we just need less talking from the audience for our minute software. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion never happened. Tom, you had a comment.
I do. And there, fundamentally, I am. I love birds, and I don't want us not to be able to feed birds. But I understand what we're trying to do with this, and I support what we're trying to do between this ordinance and the sanitation ordinance. However, I object to the ordinance as it is written right now because when we discussed it, we talked about changing the date, which is in the new ordinance. We also talked about how this ordinance would be enforced. It's a challenging enforcement, and there's nothing in here about enforcement, and we ought to know how we're going to enforce it. We're going to have police officers walking through people's backyards, or what? Any fines related to it? That's not included in this ordinance. But the fundamental issue that I present is that we thought we were going to pass the sanitation ordinance tonight. We didn't, for good reason. We'll probably pass it next month. Anytime you change more than one variable, you have no idea what caused the change. And the sanitation ordinance requires everyone to have bear-resistant containers. So we're changing two variables. We're making everyone have bear-resistant containers, and we're saying nobody can feed animals, more specifically, birds. So we won't know what worked and what didn't work. So what I would propose to the council is that we hold off on this ordinance for a year after the sanitation ordinance is in place. And let's see if the bear-resistant containers will do the trick. If not, then we would entertain this ordinance of no feeding of birds and see how that works. But I think to do both of them will certainly cause my feeble brain to be confused as to what we do and what caused the change.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Comment? Mason, Jane?
I really think that's a great point because really when you look at it, the sanitation part is a big deterrent to the bears. And like you said, we have no enforcement of the bird feeders. And so I think it's a great compromise.
Well, I have anecdotal evidence. If you quit putting out the bird feed, the bears quit coming. And I've just seen that in my house. But now I see Letta Jean is shaking her head, so she hasn't had the same luck we have. But the enforcement of this is going to be difficult regardless. I can certainly go along with it, but I still think the town needs to, I really do think we need, particularly in our summertime, we need to discourage feeding birds. It is high protein. The bears go for it. They break into houses for it. And this past year, we've killed a bear from breaking in a house to steal bird food.
Can I just say, I don't disagree with what you said. Bird seed is a problem. However, if the BRC system, which is huge, look at how many trash containers get broken into almost every day, particularly in the summertime when we have renters here. If we can contain that problem, the bears will go away. They will go to new food sources, and that's and if that doesn't work, well, let's put the no feeding of birds back in place as a supplement to it. But we just won't know what we're talking about this as a one-year test. Well, what do we test it on? How do we evaluate it? We can't if we change two variables.
I'll say I haven't had the same luck as you, Mason, because I took my bird feeder down, I think it was at the beginning of the summer, and I haven't seen any difference in the bears that parade through my yard. But I agree with Tom. We've taken away so many privileges in Montreat, and this is just sort of our last fun thing we get to do, and now we're taking it away before we even know if it's going to help. So anyway, does anybody want to now make a motion? Or we have no motion?
I'll make the motion so it can die for lack of a second.
A second? DOA. All right.
Thanks, Mason.
I will tell you that Tim Helms is going to suffer for this night. He just doesn't know. I hope he's listening. All right, where are we? Okay. The last thing is we have an audit committee's recommendation, and you've been waiting patiently. I was afraid you might have
This will be
passed
refreshing.
out back there.
My name is Hugh Alexander, and I am currently the chair of the Audit Committee. We met yesterday to review the audited financial statements for the period ending June 30, 2025.
Speak louder.
Can you hear?
Get closer to the mic.
The audit was clean. There were 3 minor compliance findings that have been addressed so that they will not happen again in the future. The unmodified opinion of the auditors was that the town's financial statements present fairly the financial position of the town. It was a good year, as indicated by an increase in the general fund of over $700,000. After review, the Audit Committee would like to recommend that the Board of Commissioners approve the audited financial statements for the fiscal year 2024-2025.
And do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And thank you, Hugh, for your work and for the committee, and especially for Rachel. She got a big standing ovation
Rachel does
yesterday.
need
Thank you. Okay, it's time again for public comment. Does anybody want to share?
I'll just do it from here.
No, you have to do it from the mic.
Letta Jean Taylor, 386 Oklahoma Road. I just wanted to respond to Mason. We have a yard full of acorns, and they don't eat our bird seed, they eat our acorns.
There you go. Okay, any other public comment? All right, we'll move on to Commissioner Communications. Anybody?
Well, I'd like to announce we have a Montreat resident, John Ellington, has written a book. It's called If Bears Could Talk, which is a really interesting, it's a wonderful story. John did a beautiful job. It is written, you may know this fellow, his name is A. Montreat Bear, and John assisted him in writing it. It is written from the perspective of a young bear and his escapades in learning to become a resident of Montreat. And it's fascinating, and it talks about a lot of the issues we've talked about with bear-proof containers and bird feeders. And I think it's worthwhile, particularly for you to share with folks that come to visit you, so that they really get a perspective of, or renting homes that you happen to rent. They get a perspective of why it's important that, and it's in the best interest of the bears for us not to provide them food and to make them find their own. And so this, I'm proud to say, is on sale at the Montreat store. They've got some copies which were delivered today. We're very grateful to Tanner and the Montreat store, Taylor, the new manager, and their efforts to help with this project. And the Land Care Committee is also very interested and is going to be promoting this book. So if you get a chance, get by the Montreat store and pick up a copy of the book.
Thanks, Mason. Jane?
I just want to, I know it was said earlier with great appreciation to Rachel. I'm a member of the audit committee, as you two are, and I was just really taken by Livonia, our head auditor, her comments about how clean that audit was, but more importantly, the high quality work that Rachel has done to keep this town financially stable, to grow things as we saw this past year, despite the fact that it was a heavier year expense-wise. But Rachel has really gone out of her way to make sure that all of the finances are in good order, and has really poured herself into an excellent audit, but it goes far beyond the audit. So thanks, Rachel, wherever you are.
you back there. Okay, we've got dates to remember. All of these are in 2026 and in the town hall with Zoom options unless otherwise noted. Tree Board, Tuesday, January 13th at 9. Planning and Zoning, Thursday, January 15th at 10:30. Montreat Police Department Community Drop-In Gathering will be Thursday, January 16th at 10 a.m. at the residence of Clay and Elizabeth Hamilton on 160 Maryland Place. Thank you, Clay and Elizabeth, for hosting. Martin Luther King Day, Junior Day, will be town offices closed on that day, the 19th. Board of Adjustment, Thursday, January 22nd at 5. Land Care, Wednesday, February the 4th at 9. Tree Board, Tuesday, February 10th at 9. Town Council meeting will be Thursday, February the 12th at 6 p.m. with the public forum at 5:30. Board of Adjustment, Thursday, February 26th at 5. Good Friday, the offices will be closed on April 3rd. Land Care Festival will be Saturday, April 11th from 10 to 2 at the Moore Center Field. No Zoom option. Okay, do I hear a motion for the meeting to be adjourned?
You bet.
Second. Second. Second?
Oh, second.
Why not?
All in favor? Hey, we did it. Thank you all for coming and seeing us through.